welcome back, Cowboys Nation. It is officially time for the 2023-24 NFL playoffs. It is wild card weekend. We're going to be talking all about the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. We're sorry for taking a little leave of absence, obviously with the holidays and everything. Things got pretty hectic, and then I was out of town last week on vacation, and Stu got strep throat. Stu and Spanky were gonna do an episode for y'all, and it just didn't work out. So, but we're here now. We've got the Three Musketeers back together, the Three Amigos, the three-headed goat, back together and ready to bring you an episode. We're not going to spend too much time. Actually, I'll just be sure that we're not going to talk about the Washington game at all. There's just no point. And we're now like almost 2 weeks past the Lions game, so it's just way too late to talk about that. But to any salty Lions fans who are still complaining that they should be the 2 seed, just remember if they call the tripping penalty on Aiden Hutchinson and not Peyton Hendershot, the ball game's over anyways. So I don't want to hear that anymore. That argument needs to be dead. And today we're going to be talking about what's most important and what's coming up this weekend. Wildcard weekend, afternoon slate, Green Bay Packers at home on Sunday in Jerry's World. First of all, shout out to the Arizona Cardinals for getting us here. We have to think that somewhere along the line, it has to be the culture that was instilled by Josh Dobbs while he was there. I'll just start it out by saying without Josh Dobbs, the Cardinals don't win that game this past weekend. I think we can all agree on that. But yeah, shout out to the Cardinals. We did what we had to do, took care of business, trounced Washington. CD's the best receiver in football, but we'll get to that. But yeah, boys, Cowboys, Packers. It's funny. I actually just got off the phone with my dad when I was driving home, and he said because of the PTSD of Aaron Rodgers, he said when he first found out that we were playing the Packers, he said he looked at it like when it was on TV, and he had almost like a mini heart attack because of the PTSD that Aaron Rodgers has obviously given us over the years. But these are not the same Packers, but they're also not the same Cowboys. So really excited to talk about this game. So I'll just open it up for questioning, just some general thoughts here. But what are y'all's initial thoughts just going into this weekend? I know it's been a while, so a little wellness check and then your initial thoughts. How are we feeling?
I mean, just shout out Dallas Cowboys clutching up again, the 2 seed, when all hope was lost post Miami and post Buffalo. That's pretty litty titty. But other than that, my thoughts going into the game are, wow, we dodged a bullet in Stephon Gilmore. Only popped his
Big time.
shoulder out. We had a couple amigos in our group chat with Stuart was one of them that forms the worst conclusions possible. Whenever an injury happens, it's like, holy shit, did he crack a rib? Like, oh my, is that a lacerated spleen? It's like, bro, he just landed on the ball. Relax. So shout out to Stu jinxing that injury. I think his Stu's original WebMD diagnosis was
Torn
what
labrum.
torn labrum, something like that.
Or a separate AC joint.
Yeah, that's good. Just going into just briefing the boys and briefing Mr. Lehman on kind of the practice report situation. The people who did not practice for the Cowboys were Stephon Gilmore, who said he's good, Tyron Smith for rest, and Demarcus Lawrence for rest. And so we're going to be fully healthy. There's not a doubt in my mind. Maybe Stephon Gilmore's left shoulder's 85%, but we should be chilling. And then the Packers, I'm not going to do counting is kind of hard, so I'm not going to do that right now, but at least double the amount of players on their injury report. A lot of big names on the injury report. The only person that did not participate in practice for the Packers are is A.J. Dillon, Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, their offensive line, yada yada yada. They all practice in some sort of fashion, which is pretty sick. So we're gonna get best on best. But yeah, Mr. Lehman, I'm here to tell you that I also had a kind of like a Vietnam PTSD flashback of like the Jared Cook toe tap, and of course the infamous Dez caught it. But Yeah, and of course Aaron Jones scoring like 4 touchdowns on us. I forget when that was, what year that was, but that was also not
2019.
that was not very chill of him. And
Christian Watson last year, legacy game
Oh yeah.
for no
yeah, but
reason.
the thing is, like, guess who was guarding Christian Watson that game? He's no longer on a roster, so that's chill. But
See ya, Anthony
I,
Brown.
yeah, I'm split, but I feel like we line up very well to the Green Bay Packers, so I'm looking forward to talk about this. So I'm just gonna turn it over to Ginger, and he'll lead us on from there.
Yeah, so I don't like how I feel for this game. When I get too confident, bad things happen to my teams that I root
Yeah,
for. I think we match up very well with this, especially with this defense. I'm scared of Rashawn Gary. If he goes up against Terrence Steele all night, Terrence Steele can have a bad game. But that's pretty much it. I mean, they got Simone Biles' husband out there. Brendan Cooks is going to devour him. You had the best duo in the league, and Dak and CD. Um, but on the other side of the ball, I am scared about their speed. They got some receivers in Dobbs and Watson, and what's the other guy's name? That is he a rookie?
Jaden Reed.
Jade. Yep, Reed. I like him a lot. Fast, athletic. That scares me a little bit. But if we just put a little bit of pressure on Jordan Love, I think we'll be just fine. I saw a stat the other day on ESPN. Orlovsky was talking about it, which also Orlovsky, I liked you. Now you can fuck right off. Sorry about my cussing. He's 31st in the league when he's pressured and goes outside the pocket. So if you get him on the move, we're gonna be just fine. Um, Aaron Jones, he's run the ball so much better this past couple of weeks. While they're in the playoffs, I mean, he's come back. He obviously has always has those injury problems. I think we had a quad injury or a hamstring or something. He looks fully healthy now. He's been running fully healthy. Um, and then our run defense also is also uh, a question mark, obviously. But besides those ticky tack analysis, I think you match up very well. And I don't like that at all for the teams I root for because that just turns into heartbreak.
Yeah, yeah, it's that's a good opening thought. Also, totally forgot to say this in the intro, but Happy New Year to all of our listeners. Uh, it's just been a while. Had a lot of things to say in the intro to cover, but Happy New Year to everyone listening. Hope your 2024 is off to a good start. Um, Hopefully the Cowboys can string together 4 wins for us. Maybe this is the lucky year. You never know. But um, just to kind of build off what you said, Stu, um, we do match up really well, and I do agree with you, and that is what scares me. I know that this Dallas Cowboys team, I know that they obviously want to win this game. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, it's the playoffs unless you're the Eagles and you're playing spoiler. Pretty much every team in the playoffs wants to win the Super Bowl. And this Packers team, to give them their respect, they're the youngest team in football. They're one of 4 teams in the NFL that don't have a single Pro Bowler. And they've got playmakers everywhere, both sides of the ball. Um, Jordan Love this year, I mean, he's what, second or third in the league in touchdown passes. He's had a lot of Roger-esque throws this year, which kind of scares me going into this game. They've got a slew of weapons around him. As you said, Aaron Jones has been playing fantastic. Known Cowboy killer, by the way. And they've got a really young receiving core that's stepped up really big time this year. They've got really young tight end room.
Oh yeah,
The
Ben Sims.
Yeah, Ben Sims, Baylor legend. That's true.
Hmm.
Sick and Bears. But yeah, really young tight end room. They've got good players all over the defense: Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary, Jair Alexander, who's was previously Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb's son. So I'm looking for that to continue. But just to kind of get things started, I guess just with our offense and how we beat that Green Bay defense. Obviously, and we know now, just based on what we've seen pretty much since the first Philadelphia game, when it became obvious that our run game was pretty much a lost cause. This The key to us winning a Super Bowl. It's basically going to take four amazing and just MVP level games by Dak Prescott. And I think we all know that. But this secondary, they're young, but they're vulnerable. Outside of Jair Alexander, I mean, they traded Russell Douglas at the deadline, which was big. He's been really solid for Buffalo. They've got a lot of young guys in that secondary. Jonathan Owen, Simone Biles' husband, is terrible. Just from all that I've read on Packers Twitter every single week, seems like their own fans even dislike him. So that's a matchup to watch out for. You know, as you said, if he's matched up against Ferguson, or if they try to line him up on like Brandon Cooks or something, I mean, that could be easily exploited. But the matchup that's going to be big for us is going to be, to me, it's going to be, and this is kind of a throwback to what we used to say early in the season, but I feel like on offense, it's going to come down to our O-line play and not really for the running game. It's about giving Dak time, let Dak cook, you know, let Dak carve up that young secondary, that young defense. And we need Terrence Steele to be just serviceable. I'm not asking him to be, you know, equal to Tyron Smith. We're not asking him to be like young La'el Collins. We're asking him to be competent. That's it. Like, just give Dak a clean pocket, and I don't see a way that we lose this game.
Yeah, and I'm glad you didn't say reliable for the Cowboys. Like, let's try to establish the run. Let's see what
No,
Tony Pollard
no.
has. That ship has sailed, and we will go as far in the playoffs as number 4 and number 88 carry us, and that's the simple fact, the truth of the matter. Micah could have 9 sacks, and it's dependent on how Dak Prescott in this offense plays.
Yep.
Uh, Green Bay Packers defense is honestly like it's weird because they're not great, but they're not bad. They're kind of in the good category. Kenny Clark, is it Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary, something like that?
Yeah.
Are
Yep.
are their defensive front? They have Quay Walker as a linebacker, and they got guys in the secondary. Um, I don't think this is going to be as cut and dry like 12 receptions, 200 yards for CD. I was kind of watching a little bit of Packers film, and they do a really good job. They have to play Justin Jefferson twice a year. Same with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They do a great job at bracketing and taking away number 1 wide receivers. So what I'm really curious to really find out is how our offense is when CeeDee Lamb is bracketed in those type of games. We saw it last year in San Francisco where they just took away CeeDee and we couldn't do anything, especially after Pollard went down. And Green Bay, they're going to do this. Every single team in the playoff, they're going to do this. They're not dumb. They know 88's turning into maybe a young Devontae Adams. Who knows? You might have heard it here first. But
Ooh.
yeah, we just need to see. I don't want to like spoil any of my picks this week because this is going to be a fun week for those. But we really need to see a step up in not our primary option, which is CeeDee Lamb. We need to see a step up this week in Brandon Cooks and Tolbert and Ferguson. And maybe when we use those formations, Hendershot can't drop a pass this week. Tolbert needs to step up when called upon. This is a week where like, obviously our sights are set on bigger things, but, and obviously we're an NFL team, we're not going to do this. It For a playoff game, it kind of feels like an overlook of a game for the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm scared that's going to happen, if that makes sense, where we're too focused on what's happening around us. We're too focused on, oh, we want revenge on San Fran. Oh, we might get the Eagles next round. Oh, yada, 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 where we don't take them being honestly one of the more warm, I won't call them a hot team right now. They're a warm team in the league where they're stuff finally coming into their own, and that's led by Jordan Love. But yeah, this team is the Cowboys will go as far as number 4, number 88 carry us, and honestly, Vegas backs up this statement. I think we go pretty far. Dak Prescott is projected betting favorite for most passing yards, most passing touchdowns, and CeeDee Lamb is projected to have the most receiving yards and receiving touchdowns in playoffs this year. So clearly, Vegas don't see us being one and done.
Speaking of, that was a great point about how they face those 2 receivers twice a year. They know how to face number ones, and you really, I mean, besides Jay Jettas, you can't really stop him. you don't really hear a lot about Amon Race. I don't know the stats, obviously, about St. Brown going against the Packers, but you can't stop Jay Jettas. But they do bracket them very well. They know how to go up against number ones. Great point with that. Um, I don't see how if they play a zone, you're gonna just get Cooks and you're gonna get Ferg and you're gonna get CD open all the time. I want to see because you know what's gonna happen where they're gonna say screw the run game. I'm talking about the Packers defense. Screw the run game. If they run for Pollard has 150 yards against us, so be it. We're gonna stop CD and Dak as much as we can. Let the run game beat us. And do I think that can happen? No. They Cowboys have shown no point into that they can do that. So that's where I'm kind of worried about is that they do take away that passing game. Um, but I just don't see how they can do that consistently for 4 quarters. Maybe at halftime it's like, dang, they are shutting down Dak and they're shutting down CD. What are we going to do? And it's a 13-10 ball game. But then the second half, you're not going to shut them down for 4 quarters. You just can't. I don't see a team capable of doing that, especially when we're at home. That's another big, huge plus. It's how winning that NFC East is just absolutely ginormous for us. I don't care for the 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed. If you have that first home game and you get momentum and you win that first game, that carries over in the whole playoffs, and that shows that you can win multiple games in the postseason. Um, so I'm not really worried about it. Like I said earlier, and it makes me nervous like you said, Spank, the defense is good. It's not great. It's not bad, but it's exploitable. You can exploit them. You can get their weaknesses, and it comes down to our O line. If Tyron Smith's healthy, or if Tyron Smith plays, excuse me, uh, we have a chance to win every single game. Like I said, I think it was a couple weeks ago, our last podcast when I briefly jumped in. Tyron Smith is our catalyst. He's the key to win this whole thing. If he plays in every game, I have confidence that we can at least win the game. At least we have the capability of being in every game that he plays in. Same with Zach Martin. And also, I want to give props to Bass and Hoffman last week, man. They
Hmm.
looked good. That's a future that you can build around. I think I said it last week. Hoffman could definitely be our starting center next year, uh, especially with Biotish having his rookie year done and how much we have to pay everybody else. That's in the long run. That's in the future. But I do think that we have the capability of our O line making that having Dak give him time in the pocket, and Dak when he has time in the pocket, he's just manning that offense so well. Mike's calling a great plays. And what I've noticed in the past few weeks watching this team, the red zone has not bit us in the butt yet. Could it happen? Definitely. But we've been doing very well in the red zone. We're scoring in the red zone. It hasn't shown to like, oh well, what happened earlier in the season? We couldn't score in the red zone. It hasn't come up yet. We haven't talked about that in forever, and I really have. That's progress. That's huge, especially going in the postseason. I heard somebody say today or yesterday, this is the healthiest, maybe the healthiest team in the NFL right now, Dallas Cowboys, besides obviously Diggs. We're as healthy as we could possibly be. And teams that are healthy and are playing and hitting on all cylinders, they win games in the postseason. That's just what happens. And so once you get that first win out of the belt, dude, sky's the limit for this team. Just get past this first game. Go dominate. You play at home. You haven't lost at home all season. Knock on wood. I just don't see how this defense or this team can lose, or how this defense can stop this offense for 4 quarters, and how we possibly lose this game unless it's a drastic collapse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I totally agree. And that was like, why I obviously give props to the Arizona Cardinals.
Mhm.
When we had our last podcast, when we previewed the Lions game, when Stu, you actually predicted us to lose that game, the first
Mhm.
time that in the short history of this podcast that we had actually predicted us, someone in our panel had predicted us to lose a game. When we sat down for that podcast and we talked about the Miami game, and Spanky and I were doom and gloom before you came on and gave us a little jolt. Spanky and I had already said that the season was like on the verge of being over. The Cardinals breathed new life into this football team, as crazy as that sounds. But it's the truth. This team being at home, and I know that we, that I texted y'all this thought too, but if you were to tell me after the Miami game that we were still going to be the 2 seed and the road to us getting to at least conference championship game is going to be 2 home games, and then, take your chance and put, everything together for one great game in San Francisco, I would have said that you were insane. But now, and especially with, um, the way that they were able to battle through and get that win against the Lions, obviously controversial, say what you will about it. Again, they call the tripping play correctly. The last sequence never even happens. Um, but the way that this team was able to go out and do what they did last week, and they were down 10-7, and we were sitting there in our chat being like, what's going on, like, are we really gonna find a way to choke this? And we didn't, and they held strong, and that we're the 2 seed and we get 2 home games, and if we make it to the conference championship and we have to face, exercise that final demon from that team in Santa Clara, I could be, I'm completely back in. And that is the danger of being a Cowboys fan. I know y'all are all the way back into. I know that we talked about it, but that's the danger of being a Dallas Cowboys fan is, getting your hopes up, before the playoffs and in the playoffs. And unfortunately, that's where we are right now. I say unfortunately because of, in our short lifetimes here, obviously with this podcast being, the younger generation of Dallas Cowboys fans, we've experienced nothing but heartbreak. But I really think that, this year has been all about exercising demons. Outside of the game that we lost to San Francisco, when we lost the first game to Philadelphia, people were out there saying that, that we just weren't good enough. The Eagles were, you know, light years better than us. Losing the games to Miami and Buffalo back to back weeks, people were saying that we were done. We even said that we were done. Um, Before the season, people didn't think that Dak Prescott was going to throw under 10 interceptions because he had one bad year. That Jalen Hurts literally replicated his exact passing stat line this year, which that's a topic for another time. But this year has been all about exercising demons. Started with Dak. Putting out what we all think is an MVP caliber season. If we were the 1 seed, if Tony Pollard scores that touchdown in the Dolphins game, Dak Prescott's your MVP of the league. We're the 1 seed in the NFC, and I mean our outlook is completely changed, knowing that literally the road to get to Las Vegas is, at least in the NFC side, is through Dallas. But from where it stands right now, in terms of exercising your demons in the playoffs, like I said, we all know what potential lies ahead in 3 weeks and possibly having to go to Santa Clara, but it starts with exercising this first demon, and that's the Green Bay Packers. This team has tormented us for years. It was Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, this is our time. Mike McCarthy, this is your time to go out and beat your old team. Do it at home, beat the Green Bay Packers. And again, I just don't see a way that we lose this game. We'll get to the defense in a second, but yeah, 4-88, 87-3 have to help out too. Anything that we get from 20 is a big plus, but I really don't see a way that we lose this game, to be quite honest.
Yeah. That's the scary part. Like we all said, we're not the average Cowboy fans that have seen Super Bowls. We're actually the slim and few Cowboy fans that have yet to see one. Our most success has been uh, our successful seasons have come to a halt in from Green Bay. And I mean, last year we lost to San Fran, but I would argue that the best Cowboy teams I've ever seen in my life have ended at the hands of Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. And yeah, it is scary. But I don't know. We were very quick to start pointing fingers earlier in the season, in which in previous years that would have been our peak. And I feel like although the score lines haven't reflected it in the Buffalo game and in the Miami game, but we're starting to really find our identity and find our peak and get into our groove later in the season. Buffalo game was crazy in which we lost to the Buffalo Bills when Josh Allen had 95 passing yards. I mean, those games, you're going to get one of those games a year where the conditions, the weather, whatever, doesn't play a part. And then, like you said, Miami, if Tony Pollard scores, if Hunter Lipke and Dak get a clean handoff, who knows what happens there. But what I really wanted to say was it just seems like our Cowboys team this year found their peak in the correct time for playoff success. In previous years, more importantly last year, we kind of started fizzling out towards the end of the season. And I mean, just that win in Green Bay and the fight we showed in Miami for all 4 quarters that came down to a field goal as time expired. I mean, we're starting to hit our peak, and I'm very excited to watch this game. And you know, like I just really don't see us losing this game. I'm gonna be honest. I think this team, Dak Prescott didn't put on the damn NFC East champs hat. Our eyes are set on something big. Micah said, great quote. I'm not gonna try to misquote it. If any of you guys could pull it up right now and say his exact quote about playoffs, but something along the lines of this is when legacies are made. You're either like achieving and making a legacy or you're forgotten. And I mean, we're hearing all the right things come out of the Cowboys camp. We're starting to get healthy. I loved your point, Stu, where I mean, we used to be limping into the playoffs. We used to by the scruff of our neck, and now it's like, wait, our injury report is our biggest key takeaways and a rest today for our offensive linemen. Like Zach Martin had a week off already. Zach Martin had a week off, and he's been fighting things. So we're gonna get Zach Martin back on 2 weeks break. Okay, let's see. We'll see you, Kenny Clark. I mean, like we're just. I'm excited. It's playoff time. I'm
Yep.
excited.
Yeah.
I guess this is when we do our killers of the week, and I'll do a unique one so you guys can do the obvious ones. My unique one this week is not unique, but it's gonna be Brandon Cooks.
Damn
Kind
it.
of what I said earlier today. I expect Green Bay to show a lot of double coverage to CeeDee Lamb, and we're gonna have to exploit a matchup somewhere. So Brandon Cooks, his home and away splits are pretty unique to say the least. Yeah, I just see him having a good day. I see him being the reason. I mean, this is the time why we traded for him right now is to be that reason, to be that final push over the line. And so, I mean, he's going to be my pick. We brought him in for a reason. It's time for him to put up or shut up.
I think he's also scored a touchdown in like 7 straight games now or something like that. Like he's on a crazy touchdown streak.
Yeah, it's awesome.
He's been like I picked him up in fantasy and had him on my bench, and he was like Mr. 16 points, like 17 points for the last like 6-7 weeks of the season. So yeah, I really like that pick. Stu, what do you got?
Yeah. So I like Spanky said, we're hitting on all cylinders. We're doing it well. We're spreading the ball around. I really want to. So I'm between two guys. I kind of want to go like a little crazy. So my one guy that I was gonna pick. I was gonna say he had at least. He's probably over. He's probably 4.5 catches. I was gonna say he had 8 catches, 9 catches for 80 yards and touchdowns. Be Jake Ferg. Um, I like that, but I really want to see something out. I know we're in the 17th game of the season, and we haven't seen shit from this guy in 17 weeks. He's played every game, and he's sucked almost every game. He's going to shut down Rashawn Gary. I have a feeling. I think Terrence Steele has his best game of the season this year, and I'm picking Terrence Steele as my killer. His pressures are going down. He's not going to allow a sack. And big one for me is this team, I guess I should have said this earlier. Something that I think might bite us in the butt is going to be our penalties. You know how we always are. Mike McCarthy teams. It seems like Mike McCarthy's teams, I guess probably Jason Garrett teams too. Like we're always in the bottom half, or I guess like number 1, number 2, and highest flag penalties in the NFL that can come back to bite us. So I'm going to say Terrence Steele, no holding penalties, no false starts, less than 2 pressures, and he balls out against Rashawn Gary.
Wow. I like that. Really outside the box pick there. Okay.
And if he plays like how I'm saying he plays, and he plays like this like the whole postseason, obviously it's you go down third game NFC Championship, he played the 49ers, but I don't see how and he plays up to this level. I don't see how we we lose. I just don't see it if he plays at this ability that I'm saying.
Okay. I like it. It's definitely one of the more out of the box picks and leaps of faith that we've had on this podcast this season, but I like it. Stu's back in on Terrence Steele. Okay. Um my pick for this week, my killer pick. Oh man, I mean there's the really two obvious choices between 4 and 88. Um and I do think that I don't really believe that Jair Alexander is going to keep CeeDee Lamb from having a really big game this week. I mean, CD had a huge game in Green Bay last year in that game that we lost to the Packers. Um, but I mean, it's playoff time. We don't know how many more podcast episodes we're gonna have left this season. If you didn't think I was gonna pick Dak Prescott as my killer this week, I mean, you clearly haven't been paying attention through the first 30 episodes. It's easily Dak Prescott. As I said earlier, this team is gonna live and die by the right arm of Dak Prescott. That's just the reality of this team. And something that I was thinking of, when y'all were talking, I feel like this team, at least offensively, has a very similar identity to that of those Green Bay teams that Rodgers took to all those NFC Championship games. It's, that the team, they're not going to come out and, run the ball down your throat or kill you to death and bleed clock with the run game. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers making big plays, and I feel like we're seeing a very similar identity to that with this current Cowboys team. Is it because of Mike McCarthy? Honestly, probably, but that's just the reality of the 2023-24 Dallas Cowboys, is that this team will go as far as Dak takes them, and I'm predicting a big game out of Dak this week. I honestly want to say that he goes for 303 touchdowns. Um, I'm gonna say all passing. He hasn't run for a score in a while. I know that's kind of his thing in the playoffs, but I'm gonna say Dak 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, big game, and a big win. So that wraps up our killers picks and our offensive side. Shifting over to the other side of the ball. Um, I will say, just to preface before we go any further, um, I'm not going to come out and say that I'm scared of Jordan Love, because I'm not. However, I'm cautiously anxious. I'll say that instead of scared. I'm cautiously anxious about the prospect of Jordan Love facing this defense. And this isn't even like a knock on our defense. It's a testament to how well Jordan Love has played to end the season. I mean, he had an insane hot streak for a while when the Packers got hot, and he had a couple bad games. And then last week, had a really big game. Who they played, the Vikings last week, or no, they beat the Bears. Duh. And the Bears, who had been playing better ball, especially that defense. Jordan Love, really good game. Really turned it up last 2 weeks of the season again. And I just can't get the image out of my head of seeing him with these Dirk Nowitzki fadeaway, back shoulder tosses to Jaden Reed, and hitting these crazy seam routes over the middle. Again, not scared, cautiously anxious about the prospect of Jordan Love and a young, hungry Packers team that has literally nothing to lose. They're the 7th seed in the conference. They got in the last week of the regular season. This team has nothing to lose, and that's honestly what scares me about them.
Yeah, and I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head where they're gonna come in and just play. I don't want to say play loose, but it's like no one has expectations for them right now. I guess maybe the Rams is the only other upset that people are really kind of talking about, but I see a lot of people picking and talking about Green Bay and how good of a team they are all of a sudden, and I'm not scared of Jordan Love. I'm really not. Clayton said a perfect stat where he's like the 30th ranked quarterback outside the pocket. The way that our defense really plays and our front seven, how they play, he's going to be out of the pocket and running around a lot. But you know what? I'm actually kind of curious to see if the Packers tell their defense or offensive tackles just to see how much they could get away with holding number 11. I'm
Yeah.
sure of all of us have seen the stats, and I'm not going to really ramble on about that. But if they're getting away with that sort of stuff, and if they need to keep, they know they need to keep Jordan Love in the pocket, it's like, you know what? We can hold him a little bit. He's not going to get a call. He hasn't got a call all year, so that's something I'm gonna really focus on. Just watching because we all see like 3 to 4 plays, probably a possession where Micah could get a holding call, could get a hands to the face call, you name it. But I'm really kind of curious to really highlight our linebacker matchups compared to their running back matchups. AJ Dillon still hasn't practiced. Thumb and neck injury is what it says. So,
Bum?
yeah, thumb and neck
Oh,
injury.
I thought you said bomb. I was like, what? Sorry, continue.
Yeah, pause. But Marquise Bell and Damone Clark really need to shut down the Aaron Jones Packers run game. We all know what Aaron Jones has done to us in the past. Just kind of looking at Aaron Jones' running stats and what runs work well for him. Unfortunately, boys, it's the story of Cowboys against the run where he's a lot better outside the tackles than he is inside the tackles. And we
Right.
really need to play a disciplined game, whether that's Demarcus Lawrence, Dante Fowler, Armstrong, Micah, and our running backs. We need to keep things contained. Turn plays back into the middle of the field where our speed of our defense needs to be our strength. Aaron Jones, I don't want to say he's definitely lost a step, whether that's through injury or age or you name it, who knows. But he's not the Aaron Jones that ran 4 touchdowns on us and did the Marshawn Lynch hold my dick into the end zone on forget what player he did that on his face, but probably Byron Jones. He was the king of like the hustle plays.
I'm pretty sure it was Byron Jones actually.
Yeah. But uh, the Packers do well and keep this a ball game if Aaron Jones gets loose. And that's kind of the simple things. I'm really not scared of half speed snap count of what Christian Watson will be. He went off against us last year against a corner that's not even on a roster right now, just to put things into perspective. Deron Bland on Jaden Reed, Donchavius Wicks, and Romeo Dubs. I mean, they have guys, they're all young, they're not superstars by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying that, but these guys are dangerous with the ball in their hands. They're being disciplined also in the tackle where we kind of see like, I mean, big just example of this was last year against San Fran with Trayvon Diggs and his tackling towards the end of the year. We can't have that. We need hats to the ball. We need to tackle. We need to wrap, and we just need to swarm. It's kind of like what the old defensive coordinators and old kind of Pop Warner football coaches used to tell us on defense, where they want 11 hats to the ball, and we really need to see that today. Whether that's disciplined and I guess we want Jordan Love to get out of the pocket instead of keeping him in the pocket. So get him out of the pocket, maybe play a little hero ball here and there, but overall stay disciplined in our running lanes and just fly around to the ball. And also one more person I really want to highlight is kind of I guess two. Jordan Lewis and Donovan Wilson have really kind of I don't want to say been the best players of our defense, but they have constantly made these swing plays for our defense, whether it's Jordan Lewis with the interceptions, with the run support, Donovan Wilson with the interceptions or run support. These two players are Jordan Lewis, like we said previously, has been we almost thought of him as a cap casualty going into the season. Donovan Wilson, Stu's favorite guy to pick weeks 1 through 4, although he didn't play, I think he played one total week in that span. He's really hasn't looked like himself earlier this year, but of late he's starting to fly around, starting to play better coverage. He could have had 2 against Washington, especially in the back of the end zone, that diving play.
Mhm.
He's flying around, and for a team that likes to use their safeties, and for a defensive coordinator who might have a lot going on around him right now. Not going to speculate on any of those matters right now, but this is a team where we need to rely on these vets, the ones that we brought back, the ones that we brought in for a reason, like Stephon Gilmore, kind of like how I just said my Brandon Cooks talk, where Stephon Gilmore is going to be my hot boy of the week. We brought him in for the exact same reason. We brought Brandon Cooks in to get us over the edge. What happened against the good teams last year is they targeted Anthony Brown, who is once again no longer on an NFL roster right now. And unfortunately, you don't have Trayvon Diggs, or we'd be the best secondary in the NFL right now. But Stephon Gilmore is playing at a great level. He got a little dinged up last week, so they might start coming out the gates targeting him, seeing how really healthy that shoulder is. But
with that torn labrum.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride with him. Pause. Stephon Gilmore to get an interception.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing really much more to say. You took what I was going to say about Jordan Lewis and Dono playing so much better the past few weeks. What I said earlier in the beginning, what I'm nervous about is how much speed they have. Nervous about Aaron Jones, Cowboy Killer. I don't really care about Christian Watson and his performance last year. That was all Aaron Rodgers, and they had a plan. They attacked it. Christian Watson doesn't scare me. Romeo Dobbs scares me. Jaden Reed scares me. Should they? Probably not. But the speed aspect does scare me a lot. Yeah, I have nothing really much more to add except that our secondary is playing the best it's played all season as a unit. Obviously, you had Deron Bland playing unreal football earlier, but as a unit, they are now hitting all cylinders. They are going out. They are attacking the ball. They're causing fumbles, forcing fumbles, getting fumbles, causing interceptions, getting interceptions. It's just all around. It's fun to watch right now. I know we played Sam Howell last week. I don't really care about that. Still forcing getting interceptions in the NFL is a hard thing to do, and they're doing it very well right now. So their O line is not great. They're below average. Luke Musgrave's an okay tight end. He's not anything great. Curse can just play his game, do whatever he does in the football field, which is basically nothing. But I'm not scared of this team. I hate saying that. I really do. But I just think that this game is. I mean, I guess I can already give my score prediction now. It's gonna be a 31-20 game. It'll be tight at halftime, 13-10. You'll be like, what's going on? And ball out the second half, no issues, dub, and we win this thing.
So what about your hot boy pick?
I have a hot boy. Do I do it?
Yeah, do it.
All right, I'll go Dono. Forced fumble. And he plays. He's gonna have to. He actually will have to play well with Aaron Jones. I mean, I just have no faith in his linebacking duo that we have. I mean, I know y'all. I guess y'all said y'all liked him early in the season. I don't know how y'all stand now with him. I'm not a fan of either one of them. Marquise Bell obviously is still young. Devon Clark is still young, but they just don't. They haven't shown anything to me that makes me eye-popping numbers. Devon Clark gets beat every single week. He gets beat on off the ball, handing off. He gets beat on against tackles, against guards. He just looks slow out there. Marquise Bell is, I mean, obviously Marquise Bell is a safety, transferred over, nickel, wherever he played in college, comes down, is playing linebacker now, is smaller, but it's tough to watch them play football. So Donald Wilson, if we want to win that Super Bowl and win these multiple games, teams are going to try to run the ball against us, and Donald Wilson's going to have to step up, and I think he will this week. I'm going to say 8 tackles, forced fumble, and he's going to come off the blind side for a sack.
Jeez. Okay.
Career game.
Okay. Donovan Wilson legacy game. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Okay. My hot boy pick, I went with the really obvious pick with Dak on the offensive side of the ball for my killer. So I'm going to try to go a little bit off script here. Just in terms of my hot boy pick for the defense. With everything being said, I obviously don't want to pick Micah. I mean, that would be the obvious pick against that somewhat questionable Green Bay offensive line, but I'm not going to do it. I was really tempted to pick D-Law. We all think Pro Bowl snub, but unfortunately they go by counting numbers. And he only had, I think, like 6 sacks this year. So the argument, I guess, wasn't there to the common media. But it's whatever. if everything goes according to plan, we won't even be able to play in the Pro Bowl anyway. So, with all that being said, my hot boy pick this week is going to be Jordan Lewis. As Spanky said, and I'm not going to harp too much more on it, kind of the unsung hero of this defensive unit over the last 5 or 6 weeks. His play in the slot has been absolutely, I mean, it's been irreplaceable. With Deron Bland or when Diggs went down and Bland had to kick outside, we were kind of questioning about Lewis's ability. Again, a guy that we thought potentially could even be a cap casualty, and he's especially over the last couple of weeks, he's been absolutely awesome. He's made a lot of big tackles, had the really big interception against his hometown Lions. That was awesome. But I'm going to go with Jordan Lewis, and I'm going to say that he gets what Spanky said, one of those big swing plays this week. I'm going to say that he gets a pick. I'm not going to get too specific or too crazy and say when the pick is going to be, but just know that Jordan Lewis is getting an interception this week. But okay, that pretty much wraps up our offensive and defensive discussion about this game. So next, and Stu already gave his, but score predictions. The final standings for the regular season, just in case you were keeping track at home, which I'm sure most of you were, because who wouldn't? Spanky won the score prediction contest between the three of us this season, with us not getting public picks for the last 2 games of the year. Actually, we did have the Lions game. Guess I didn't look at that. Spanky would have won, or actually Stu would have won the Lions game.
Oh.
So with that being said,
Yeah, my score prediction was basically right, I think. It was super close.
You had 24-21. I think the final score was what, like 21-20?
19.
Wait, but didn't he say
Right,
the Lions
21-19?
won?
Yeah, but the Lions won.
Oh, he did. So I had 31-28. Spanky had 33-31.
Screw you, Spanky, for saying that. Give me a
So
win.
well, you did pick the Lions.
Yeah, but my thing basically came to fruition that I literally said what was going to happen.
Okay, well, okay, so the tie was still removed for second place. Spanky was our winner this year for score predictions. He won by a final score of 4-3-2. Spanky won 4, I won 3, Stu won 2, and then we didn't get a pick off for Washington. We all would have picked a game, a win, maybe a blowout, maybe not. Doesn't matter. And then we missed the Panthers game when we had RJ on, and then we don't count losses. So Spanky wins that. Record predictions for the beginning of the season. Stu and I had us losing week 18 because we thought it was going to be a rest game. But Stu and I finished tied for the record prediction. We both had 4 losses. Spanky had 5 losses. So Stu and I finished tied there. But okay. Getting into score predictions, we already got Clayton's. He said 31-20 Cowboys. So David, what is your score prediction this week?
I like 34-23. It's kind of like a weird one where it's gonna be like 2 field goals apiece, but I feel like kind of like what Stu said, where it's gonna feel a lot closer and we pull away kind of like midway through the third.
Okay. And I'm gonna say that game script is pretty similar to mine, but I'm gonna go with the wider point differential. I'm gonna say 38-24 Cowboys. It's kind of the same thing. If this could be like a 21-17 game at half, maybe, and then we just pull away late. We've no doubt about it. Maybe get a late touchdown, like middle of the fourth, that really seals it, and we ride into whoever we play next week, whether it be Philly or Tampa or whoever, and we have all the momentum in the world for another home game going into the divisional round. But okay, so a Dallas win around the horn. Players that we picked to watch out for this week: Dak, Brandon Cooks, Terrence Steele, Jordan Lewis, Stephon Gilmore, Donovan Wilson. So keep an eye on that Dallas secondary. But as we begin to wrap up here and start our prep for Wildcard Weekend, as always, got to do our cover zero takes. I'm expecting some heat this week, boys. I'm not gonna lie. We're in the playoffs now, so I know you guys have some heat up your sleeve. So let's hear it.
Cavante Turpin breaks a long one. I'm not. I don't.
Return or offensive touch or
I'm gonna say in the return game. I'm leaning a punt return. I'm leaning he takes a punt return. I don't want to say to the house, but he's gonna break off a long one.
okay. I like that. I like that take a lot.
All right, I'm gonna have two. One for the Cowboys. One it's not has anything to do with us. My first one is Don Wilson forced fumble. Micah Parsons picks it up, scores a touchdown.
Okay.
And then my other one has nothing to do with us. Browns make the Super Bowl.
Wow. Okay. What an interesting pick there. So wait, who did the Browns play this weekend? Oh, the Texans. Yeah. Walk in the park for them. For the Browns, that is. Flacco goat. Okay. My sorry, that was a shot at our Houston friends, who are AWLs. So we'll be sure to get that clip out for them. But okay, my cover zero take this week. God, I really like that Turpin one. I'm not gonna lie. But I'm not gonna do anything with it. My cover zero take is going to be Dak Prescott will have 3 touchdowns and it goes to 3 different receivers. He's going to have one to CD, one to Cooks, one to Ferguson. Get the 3-headed monster, the 3 big weapons involved. My other cover zero take is we're going to force 3 turnovers in this game. We're going to look like a force. Just get it out there early. Maybe that legacy game that Stu talked about for Wilson with the forced fumble and the Parsons picking it up for a touchdown, and then J. Lou and Gilly interceptions. So, yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Now that we've said it, again, we've just depending on the week, the NFL chooses whether or not to give us the script. We had it a lot early in the season, and then we kind of tailed off in terms of being able to get that script, just because I think Vegas and the NFL got mad at us because we were, people were placing just probably absurd parlays based off our picks. Which, if you made money off us this year, shout out to you and shout out to us because we're awesome. But okay, you guys have anything else that we want to add before we sign off here?
Nope, let's go win a Super Bowl.
Let's go win a bowl. Starts this weekend. Starts this weekend though. And as always, please be sure to listen to us. We're available on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube. We'll be looking to have this episode. Today is Wednesday, the 10th of January, 2024. This episode should be up tonight. So depending on whenever you're listening, should give you plenty of time to lock in those picks before the big game on Sunday afternoon in Jerry's world. But yeah, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Please follow us on our socials, X and TikTok. We're gonna try to get some clips out. We've been kind of slacking in terms of the engagement department. Holidays certainly had a lot to do with that. We'll just chalk it up to that. So blame our families for loving us and wanting to see their children for the holidays. Not our fault. And then please follow us on Instagram at Dallas BC Podcast for any sponsorships or inquiries or things of that nature. Email us podcastdbc@gmail.com. And we talked about it in our last episode, but we do have a new website. We're still tinkering with it a little bit, just in terms of how to update it and get all the new content up there. But especially now as we move into playoff time, and then soon enough it'll be mock draft season. So we'll be a lot more active on there. If you guys watch the national championship game on Monday, shout out to Michigan. Does that leave the door open for Harbaugh to come to the NFL or come back to the NFL? We'll see.
Charges.
Yeah. I honestly think so too. And shout out to Nick Saban. Enjoy retirement. Um, Former Dolphins coach. So NFL, Alabama. Um, insane stuff. Insane stuff. A lot of crazy stuff going on in the coaching carousel in the league. But yeah, we'll be sure to be updating our website, especially as we move into the off season, and we probably make our podcast a little less frequently. So be sure to go check that out. It's DallasBallersClub.com. We'll have a link to it in the description of this video as well. So be sure to check that out. But thank you guys so much for making us your daily, I guess not daily, your weekly or bi-weekly Dallas Cowboys listen, however you want to frame it. And thank you guys so much for joining us today. Let's go win a Super Bowl. Let's go beat Green Bay.
Oh!